Well, hello there. Um, so last time what we did is we created a scene manager and now we can add in multiple scenes into our game. So it's easier to manage, if we have game objects in multiple scenes, which we will not, but if in your game you want it, it's gonna be really easy now. And now we actually want to create our first menu scene. So the intro, the main menu that you're gonna be seeing. And so we created this placeholder here. Let's create a menu scene header, not wasting any more time of our precious time. We're gonna call this menu scene. It's gonna be a scene, and just like that. And what we're gonna be doing is we will have a custom initialize method, just like in the game scene. And we have yet to test if these actually work. And so what's gonna happen is we actually need some sort of image to be our start button. Let's close these from the last time where gods of C++ rejected us. So UI objects, we have this start button over here, and we want to use this. And this is what we are going to be doing. But you know what? That certain button will actually be part of an overlay. So it's gonna be like menu overlay, like main menu overlay, and it's gonna be a UI overlay. Right, this is why we created overlays for buttons, HUD things, overlay. So we're gonna have our first button, guys. Isn't that amazing? So I'm thinking those things like loading in the image for the button should be done in the constructor of this guy, and this constructor will be added in this scenes constructor to itself. Okay, that maybe is not making any sense, but it's gonna make sense in just a second. So we need here a texture detail, m start button, like that. And we need a constructor main menu overlay, which I think needs to take in a scene. And we will need a void tick delta time, which we are gonna override, and also a render, because we need to render the button. And well, theoretically, we will render it and have the logic for the clicking in the render function, not in the tick. But yeah, I mean, let's just leave it like that. Let's create a new file, menu scene. Let's put it here. Menu scene. Also we need here a constructor like that. Let's copy this, put it here, like that. Oops. Okay. This will call UI overlay with the scene, and we will also load in the image here. Start button, assets. We also have to load this image, and let's include assets. Get texture, start button. This is how we are gonna call it, and this is actually gonna create the menu overlay, and we're gonna hold it here. So main menu overlay. Well, we don't actually have to we should be able to keep it like that. Probably. Oh, actually not. Yeah, let's just keep it like that. Main menu overlay. Let's just do it like that. New main menu overlay. We pass in this as the scene, and we'll say add overlay, and we'll pass in main menu overlay. We'll pass in this one. Nice. The initialize doesn't actually do anything. I don't actually need this, I believe. I think we can remove it. We just use this scene for the overlay, to be honest. Now, for now, that's gonna be like that. Let's go and actually load this start button texture. So, UI objects. Let's see how this is called. This is called start .png, and this is like that. And let's also include that menu scene, just like that. We should have it, and now let's just render it onto the screen just so we know it works. Destination, so where it's going to be rendered onto the screen. And we also need to create a wrapper function for this, so we don't have to write that much code in order to make this work. Let's just put it somewhere in the top left corner for now, like that. And let's just give it the normal width and height, which is 48 by 8. I read it from here, from the name. Let's actually just do it like that. Now let's render it. Draw texture pro. We have M start button texture, M start button source, destination, that is your creation. Okay, and now we should have something onto the screen now. Let's see. And we do. We have this start button, which is amazing. Now obviously it doesn't work. We could create a function that will allow us to click on buttons, and for now we will only have it in our main menu overlay, because I don't think if we are gonna have multiple menus, we don't actually have more buttons here from what I see. So this is probably gonna be our only button, but you know, if you want to make more buttons, you will probably make it in this way, in which I'm gonna show you. So I'm gonna have here like image button, and it's gonna take in like a pointer to a texture, and maybe to a like an ABB, so like a rectangle, probably. I'm thinking. Yeah. I mean, we could. What should we do, guys? Let's just maybe put in the position where we want the button. Like that. I mean, why not? Yeah, sure, we can have that. We can have that. Not that ridiculous, actually. So we can have that. And that's actually going to take care of rendering this button for us. And this is what we're going to implement here is sort of a immediate mode UI thing. So here is width, here's the height, and that's it, really. And here I'm going to use the texture. Like that. And what's going to happen is I'm actually going to track in to see if the mouse button, so vector to mouse position, which should be fairly easy to get mouse position. We have to make it into the input. Well, we don't have to do it. You know what? Let's not do it. If we don't have to do it, let's not do it. We can just call this get mouse position because Raylib implemented this. They were extremely kind, and we did that. And what we can say is that, hey, if ball clicked, so if we clicked, well, let's say the button will act once we so when you press a button, you have the action of pressing it and then letting it up, right? So letting it go. And usually when you press, for example, this button, you click, you can drag your mouse out of there, but you can see it still remains sort of active. But if I let go of the click here, nothing is going to happen because of what I'm going to show you here, because we need to release the button on we need to release the mouse button on our button in order to actually action it, so in order to trigger it. And so get mouse button, get button down. Raylib get mouse button released or up. Get mouse button, get key pressed, get mouse button pressed. Okay, let's see. What do we have here? Oh, it was just a okay, see, it was just a suggestion, I think. So this is not what we are looking for, maybe. So let's see. How do we get is mouse button pressed? Aha, is mouse button released? And I believe 0 is for the left. And so if we release the mouse button and our mouse position is in our rectangle, and this is sort of a AABB intersection test, right? So we could theoretically reuse the logic we did there. Well, this is just a point, so if we are inside the rectangle, so in like that, and now let's just copy this whole thing and do the same thing for Y. Tell me why? Okay, just like that. We are gonna return true. Okay, and well, false. Like that. And yeah, we can like, so if we drag this button from here and we release it here, as you can see, we didn't actually press anything. So what we have to do is also keep track of the fact that we pressed on this button and then we let go of the mouse on this button. So I think we can call this state like, I think hot or I don't know, active or something. We can call it hot, it sounds nice. And I think I've seen that used in some other place. And so we can do it. I don't think we need to do it. The thing is, this image button, this gets created every time, right? So this gets rendered, displayed on the screen, and this condition gets checked every frame. We don't actually have a physical button like an object that will store, like it will know the fact that we actually made the button hot, right? So it's not keeping the state of it, because in one frame we might press this, but in the next one it won't have any idea of the fact that we pressed it on our button. So we could either make things static, which is not abysmal, you know, it's a pretty okay thing actually. In our case, it's not that bad. Or we could simply create some sort of UI elements, and we are simply gonna keep their logic there. So I'm thinking, what should we do? We could push this further on, so we will make that later because it's not that important, or we could just make it now. The thing is, we will only use it in one place and one place only, and I don't think it's not worth it. I mean, this engine is probably, I'm not going to use it for anything else. Probably it's just for this little game that we made. So, you know, it's kind of weird to make like a whole class that you only use like once, when you could just make things static in here and it's gonna work. I'm thinking, so yeah, whatever. Let's just make the button. Okay. So let's create a class. Let's call it image button. Okay. And it's gonna have a function here called clicked. Okay. And we could sort of improvise here and actually call this like tick and pass in all of these things, right? Ugh. I feel like we are overcomplicating this so much. So we can call this like clicked, and it's gonna return to us, all the logic that we have here for clicking it. And we could also have here like bool, oops, void render, right? Just like that. The thing is, I would like this button to move so it gives off a more arcadish style. So I need the position to be able to update, easy. So I would just believe, let's see, let's just keep in the float x, float y, float w, float h, so width height, by the way. And we also, since this is an UI image button, let's just initialize, let's just give it a pointer to the texture. And when we create a button, we can also like set texture. I know this is overcomplicating things, and I'm only doing it just so I'm showing you guys how you might want to do that. Right, so you could extend this engine and make other things with it. The whole point of this series is to make you learn, some stuff about game development. And so although we are only going to use it in one place, I think it's okay for me to show it to you like this. And again, the thing we were talking about, we could just encapsulate this in just one function and make things static, right? Like this. And make here like a static bool hot, and well, we will check to see if this is hot. It's completely possible, but I don't know, you might not want to do it. Who knows, maybe you like this approach better, where you have like an object here. I'm gonna create here like m start button. This is the texture. Okay, here I'm gonna initialize this gonna initialize the texture with this, like that. What's the problem? Okay, so we did that. We also need to set in the position, the width and the height. Could say like set bounds. There are multiple ways in which we can do that. And by the way, these are not implemented yet, so we have to implement those. Let's just implement those here. Like that. This is a pretty big detour, I guess. And again, we could have just used one thing, but hey, it is what it is. So let's just render this like that. Like that. Like that. Okay, don't do it if it's null. We should have like a default constructor here that says, hey, you're null. Always initialize your variables, guys. and texture equals texture. So A comes from argument, by the way. Okay, so here we have to actually check the clicked thing. So we are gonna pick up this. Let's remove this function altogether, like that. So let's see. The result here. We get the mouse position, the mouse button, we get the release. Pretty nice. Now we need this hot variable in here, which has to be kept in between frames, which by default is going to be false, by the way. Just like that. And what's going to happen is ball pressed. Let's check if the button is pressed. So now we are checking for this thing, right? Like now that button is hot, so we want also that. So if is pressed and it collides with our button, the mouse, we can set the hot to true. Else if we press the button and it's not within our button, if we press the mouse button and it's not within our image button, then we set it false, so it's no longer hot. If the button is released, let's see. So if it's released and it's in our button, we don't actually return true. We have to check if it's also hot. Okay. So if it's released, on our button and our button is hot, then the result is true. Okay, we can just return true at this point. Okay, and we can reset this hot state here. So I hope you got it. So whenever we press the button on a button, whenever we press the mouse button on our image button, it becomes hot. And if we release it and we are still on the button, right? So we release the mouse button and our button was also hot, then it's actually gonna do the thing, right? If we press the button and we release it, but it's not within our button, right? It's gonna fail. So hopefully this is clear. Let's go, and this is how we are gonna finish the video. We are testing this stuff. So let's just do in the tick. So here in the render, we are simply saying, hey, start button, render. We are rendering the button, and here we check to see if it's clicked. If it's clicked, then we are gonna do stuff. For now, let's just display some text. Okay. like that. Let's see if it works. First try. Well, we have no image onto the screen, so that's also nice. Let's see, do we actually call this? Oh well, yeah, we actually do. Let's see what's in here. Our texture is actually valid, which is nice. Oh yeah, we didn't call the function to set the bounds of the button. So yeah, set bounds. So it's because I want this to be able to move. We can actually call this function dynamically and we change where the button will be. So that's pretty nice. Otherwise, if you don't want to change this, you can just put it in the constructor and the button is just gonna stay there still. So it's gonna be a 32 by 32 and it's gonna be 48 and 8, and we are gonna multiply those by 2, so we scale them up. So let's see, here's the button. Hey, we clicked it. So clicked again, we are clicking, around it, nothing happens. Let's click on it, drag the mouse, release the button, and as you can see, it's not clicked. We hold the button, drag nothing. We hold the button from outside, we come in here, we release it, it's not clicked, right, because it wasn't hot, and now we click on it, it becomes hot. We can move wherever we want, but whenever we release it, because it was hot, it's going to be clicked. So this is how you actually want your buttons to work. You could tweak the logic a little bit so it's not like this, but you do whatever you want. Let's just say float m start button x, start button y, and let's just initialize these in here with 32. Let's just take these out, put them in here so we can update the positions. Let's have a an offset, and it's gonna be, remember what I told you about the sine and about sine and cosine. Damn, that voice crack hit me like Michael Jackson got hit by. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. So float, we're gonna have some time tracking in here. Delta time. So let's just do that. Let's multiply this by, I don't know, 16. And let's add this to the y. So now what's gonna happen is this is gonna go up and down. Let's make this bigger. Let's actually center this. So I actually changed my mind. These are not equal. Settings, we have to include these. So we have like screen width, and well, this is not accurate, but screen width minus texture width divided by 2, right? Remember, because of how the origin works, this is our scene. This is our middle, and we start to draw the image from here, and now we have to offset it by half, right? So now it's actually in the middle. This is what we are going to be doing here, and this is gonna be just height divided by 2, and I think it's gonna be okay. So let's run this and see what we got. And we actually have a start button that wobbles, and we have another problem here. The width times divided by 2 is not actually the width that we are rendering this at. We are rendering this at the actual width times 4. So let's just do that. And yeah, this is not the most beautiful thing that we can do, but you know, it's gonna work anyway. So here it is. Actually, this for some reason is not centered. And I'm not sure if it's because of the texture. Actually, the texture looks okay. See? It's not like a white space after it. Yeah, that's interesting. Or is it centered? Oh, it might actually be, but it doesn't look like it. Well, we can add like a padding. Yeah, oh my god, that looks way better. And now if we can click, you know, nice. It works. And it updates according to the position. So what we are gonna be doing next time maybe is change this so it actually does something like scene manager. Actually, let's test it now. Push scene game scene, something like that. I'm committing crimes on my microphone. Scene manager, and we're gonna push the game scene actually onto the screen. Let's see if it's gonna work. Oh my god, it actually worked, guys. We have a working main menu. And whenever we die, we actually have to go to the main menu, but we are gonna be doing that in the next episode. So yeah, again, just to reiterate, we didn't have to implement the image button like this. We could just put everything in one function, make this static, and it would have worked, okay? But you know, the C++ heretics, well, no, I'm the heretic. The C++ gods won't like it, and so I'm conforming to those norms. So yeah, see you in the next episode.